There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. It is Friday. It's the 9th of February. And it is time for the Gin and Tonic Show. It's time to talk about Islam. And what we're going to do tonight is to talk a little bit about haram. Welcome, Abu. Welcome, Raven. If anybody wants to join the panel, if anybody has any contribution, if anybody wants to anyway, say anything when we're finished with the topic, then please send me a message on Facebook and I will send you the link because actually, if people, no, why risk it? The thing is, I have set it up so that people can't immediately broadcast anything. I first need to switch them on, otherwise it doesn't work, as a safety precaution so that we don't get bombed by pornography again. So, welcome everybody. Let me start the show in the usual way, and that is by going through a couple of comments. But I heard last time that people said, nah, it's too long and blah, blah, blah. So we'll do this relatively quickly. I'll just go through a couple of them. And I'm not going to, like here, this is a lot of text. So I'm not going to read the entire text. That would be stupid. So what I'm just going to do, just make a couple of comments on this, who is saying what, where, and why, just so that people get an idea of what is happening at the moment at Speaker's Corner. And I will go into the event where Tan, the guy who was on the show last week, the tourist from Malaysia, who is at the moment causing a bit of a I don't know, ruckus at the Speaker's Corner at Hyde Park. He was assaulted by two of the guys. Then a cop came to Tan and told Tan that he had to leave because he was causing too much of a aggression potential there. I don't know what else to call this. And then he was given 15 minutes, and then he left. Okay, so here we go. How do I zoom this? How can I make this a little bit smaller? I cannot, because at the moment I see that at the bottom some of the pictures are obscuring the picture, and I can't make this smaller. Okay, so be that it. So this is on the video, and somebody's saying on a video where Phil, the guy who's doing the interviews with the physicists and that, is talking to Shabir, who is a Muslim, and they were talking about cosmology, and then people, it's quite funny how people can't really understand what it is that Phil is saying, and then they automatically jump to conclusions and they do funny things. So shame it ended when it was getting sticky for Phil. I'm not an expert. So it's funny how he says, shame it ended when it was getting sticky for Phil. No, he is being honest. And this is what people need to appreciate. And this is what people need to learn, that saying, I don't know, for something is not something bad. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I filmed this one. And yeah, I filmed that one. And afterwards, Phil, without me prompting or saying anything, Phil came away and he just said, that was pure obscurantism. That was a complete waste of my time. He should have just said, I don't want to talk about, because he came there to talk to him about the Kalam argument. And then he went off into a rant. And of course, these guys all think Shabir is just a master rhetorician, etc. They just all get hypnotized. So, yeah.
And this is the point. If somebody else goes and says something and like very honestly says, I do not know, then they take this as a weakness. Because you're supposed to go like Shabir, you're supposed to go like Muhammad Hijab and those people who say, I know, I am 100% sure that this is this and this, that they are wrong, that they are lying. Nobody really cares. This is the funny thing.
He talked about the calamity thing. Did you miss that? Okay, sorry, you keep going back.
Yes, I did, because I didn't read the whole thing.
How you would deal with the calamity thing, it's about 4 lines down from the bottom, from looking up.
Muslims doing exactly what they're doing on Phil's behalf. Simple tribalism, 22 minutes of how he would deal with the calamity thing is taken as Shabir has Phil giving what is usually the final fig leaf. I'm not an expert. Homework, the selection isn't conscious. It's weighing up. What, where?
Yeah, no, I just because it was talking about the Kalam argument. So this guy obviously doesn't know what he's talking about, the calamity thing. Carry on. I thought that was.
Oh, is it? I missed that.
Yeah, you just read it.
Okay. How he would deal with the calamity thing. Oh, okay, maybe he doesn't know what a calamity is.
He's obviously talking about, because he came there to speak to Shabir about the Kalam cosmological argument. So this guy thinks the calamity thing.
Okay, I missed that actually. Thank you. I didn't spot this. Okay, then we have Tan. Now, there's a lot on Tan. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things that are going on with Tam in Speaker's Corner. It's quite frightening if you see how helpless Muslims actually are when it comes to handling Tam. So this guy is saying, poor guy, speaking about Tan, you might get yourself killed. Lol. So he thinks this is really funny that Tan is somebody who is confrontative, who is in your face, so much that people are thinking, well, maybe he should or will get killed for that, even though he is just commenting. He's just asking questions. He's just saying, listen, this is the story. Explain it to me. And this is something where somebody says, such hatred. No, there's no hatred. He's just asking questions. He's just making comments. He's just showing people the truth. And that is it. He's
like
not from Malaysia. Well, he is from Malaysia. He's from KL.
Like the second half of it there. I'm a Muslim. Get the F out of our country. Which country is he talking about? He can't be talking about the UK. It's
Malaysia.
not his country.
Malaysia. He thinks Muslim country is Malaysia is a Muslim country. As soon as you have 15 Muslims in a country, it's Muslim country.
He's the visitor. Muslims are not. They don't.
Might
they didn't
end
start
up dead if he comes back. Malay people hated of this motherfucker Chinese like him. Dog, bitch, ass attitude. So they love him.
Yes, bit of emotion.
Okay, Sharon Brown. Now, you never know if this is the thing. A lot of people start getting very careful when they see a girl's name, but I don't.
You know what this is? I
treat everybody
know
the
what
same.
this is.
I'm not sexist.
This is the wife of a guy that wanted to come on the show. And then I said, yeah, come on the show. And he hasn't come on. So I actually replied to this. And I said, hey, we're still waiting for your husband to come on the show. He's from Birmingham or something. So he told me. And he uses this account. But this is, I think, his wife here, because it seems to talk about her husband. So go ahead.
So answers Paul Brackton, if you spoke to my husband like you did to Bro Hijab, he would get smashed. Oh boy, my husband is not as patient, and on YouTube he was always slandering the Muslim Brothers. Two-faced Indian thinks he's clever, a proper kafir who knowingly rejects the truth. In some videos he says there might be God and there was enough evidence, you would accept their premise, but he's a blatant liar who likes to argue for the sake of argumentation. Well, come on the show, bring it on. I don't understand. What I love is people saying, well, if you would speak to Hijab, he would kill you. Why can't you do it? Why can't you just come and make the arguments?
We'll bring Answer on at the same time. So her husband did answer, and this guy did ask me at one point. I don't know, he's gone quiet now. I haven't heard from him. But yeah, he's welcome to come on the show. We'll bring Answer on and they can have a conversation.
Yeah, very easy. This is this mic again. 8-minute answer, sweating under pressure that appeals to the audience. Shavir spotted his discomfort repetition of scientific method. Who's the we? Answer keeps referring to. Well, yeah, we is humanity. Okay, this is the well, if you want to call it the scientific community or whatever, you can do it as well. There's different we's here. This town is an idiot, thinks he can create fun of religion. Yes, of course. That's the only thing that you can do with religion, make fun of it. Come on, you can't take it serious. Do you think really you can revive a corpse by slapping it with a piece of steak just because it says so in the Quran? Are you nuts? Can you take this seriously? No, you can't. Oh, I got this twice. Oh, is this... Either I got this twice or we had the same comment or something.
Yeah,
okay, you are funny. I think it must be the other way around. Phil clearly stated he knows nothing. What expertise? Yeah, this is the whole thing. Phil clearly states he knows nothing. Absolutely ridiculous, because they don't understand what is going on and they don't understand how this works. And that's saying, look, I don't really know. There's nothing wrong with that.
But it's a selective hearing and or comprehension at its finest. I mean, you listen to it as an hour-long video of Phil explaining some of the cosmological stuff. And when they ask for certain conclusions, he rightly says that scientists don't know yet which is the correct answer to something. But that doesn't mean that we don't have information pointing in certain directions. So all they take from this is he knows nothing. And you're like, there's 55 minutes of him, and well, apart from them interrupting and saying other stuff, he was giving them information. And the last point is, so it's like blinkers. Oh, hang on a moment. He said, I don't know. That's all I'm going to hear. I'm going to block out everything else that's been said.
And here you are. Funny must be the other way. Please has nothing. What expertise? Okay, cool. All right. Laugh at my ass off, you tried, beat his ass. He incites trouble, the motherfucker.
So I think this was the Sarah altercation video where Sarah sort of got involved with these two guys who were having a debate, and then Hamid challenged him and so on. So that was just came from that one. So Sarah's obviously inciting trouble, quote unquote.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, these are things that I got. Now, can I somehow selectively zoom in? No, I can't.
I would tell you if you want to. I would tell you if you want a Mac, but because you're on a PC, I can't really.
Rub it in, rub it in, rub it in.
Just read it, Stops, because it's very blurred.
Why is yours so good quality and why is mine such bad quality?
Because when I screenshot mine, I just screenshot a little bit. It looks like you're taking a lot more, and then it becomes zoomed in a bit. I still can't read it. I don't know.
High quality, so I don't know why this is low quality.
Raven or Abu, can you read that stuff?
Can you put it back on the screen?
Okay, I need to talk because I have not locked myself on the screen.
Yeah, click on yourself, Stops, to lock you. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I can't read it.
No.
Little bit here and there. I can read the last bit. He's stupid, blah, blah, but I can't really. Just read it out, Stops. We can't see it. So
okay, the thing is, these are all comments which are relating to Tan. Like I said, he's causing such a stir, and this Ching Chang is like a radio. He is lost. And like a radio, he is lost. I don't understand. I've never heard a lost radio. So, and then Tan is racist. His logic is to turn the question to people. No, turn the question to people back instead of answering. I don't know. The English is brainless idiot laws, not comedian but arrogant, and needs to see a doctor or dial 118 for help. I'm crazy and so on. He's stupid. How about yellow man? The thing is, there's a lot of racist comments here, which I don't quite understand. I don't understand why people are racist. I don't know why they have such a dislike for people from Malaysia or from, this doesn't really matter, from Asia.
No, but it's emotion, Stops. They're getting emotional. The first thing you do when you get emotional is you emotionally attack somebody, because you can't think and have emotion at the same time. It's very rare that people can do both. So they're getting emotionally triggered, as you've said.
The funny thing is that they are accusing him of being a racist, and then they're using a lot of
exactly
against him.
That's right.
Hang on, I think it's me doing this. What happens if I do it like that?
Just a little bit better.
That's actually improved it.
Okay, what happens if I do it like that?
Oh, it works.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, what happens if I put it like here?
We're having a tick show.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
Okay, so this carries on. He's an angry man. I think this man is possessed by jinn. Tan is from Malaysia. I though he will smarter than before, but still say the same stupid. Tan is not the man, but a snake who lies out of his arsehole. Peace, family. Tan is member of Britain First. Can confirm. This is so funny. Just because he went and chatted or something, then he now is a member of Britain First. Or Yellow Man. Again, another racist comment, which I don't understand.
And notice how Yellow Man haha is being loved by Channel Up.
Yeah, great. And I love a lot of these guys. In the old days, you could actually see who was giving you the thumbs up. And you could see that it's the people themselves that are giving themselves the thumbs up. But they closed it down because Google is not into honesty and into things like that. And his main objective is to provoke and disturb the debate. Well, yes, he wants to provoke, absolutely, but not to disturb the debate, but to have a debate. Tan is bullshit agnostic. What is bullshit agnostic? He already blocked his mind with hatred. He can't hold a serious discussion. Yeah. Tan, what a disgrace as Malaysian to ask question, no problem, but to provoke people, yeah, there's a problem. You're not allowed to provoke people. Spreading hates and lies. I don't know why it's always hatred. I don't understand this. Why is it hatred if you ask questions?
It's just one of those terms now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you say something and chase them, it's hatred. You notice it never goes the other way around. There's no atheist or Christian comes to them and say, you're preaching hatred.
And look what the people here are doing, eh? Tan is clueless, has no concept of mathematics and no logic, running 100 miles an hour, asking 100 questions. Yes. Tan, I think you've been drinking 10 cans of Red Bull. You're speaking fast forward mode. You're shaking like a jelly. Shaking like a jelly. As you speak, see a doctor urgently. Oh, boy, this is so funny. Anyway, this is something where I said, I answered to that random guy who said, I don't know, I'm not going to reply to you, but you are promoting false images of him.
Who's
because
him?
of my image.
Who's him?
Mohammed.
Oh, right. And this is a video that you did, presumably.
No, somebody is commenting on my comment. The only beef that he has is that I am using a picture of somebody with a beard and a green hoodie on top.
And he thinks that's
This is from a game, okay? This is a character from a game. And he says, I'm promoting the false image of Muhammad, the Prophet. So I said to him, man, you're so full of shit. I'm not promoting anything and you have no clue what you're doing. You don't like something, but you don't even know why. So like a little girl, you start crying. And then that random guy said, stop spamming, like what? Wallahi, you have left the religion simply by pushing that cartoon image of the Prophet, peace and da-da-da. You are a non-Muslim from now on. You are an infidel. Thank you for that information.
Yes.
I mean, how long how does it take to figure out that I'm not a Muslim?
He's pronounced it on you, Stops.
Oh, Tan is pure and utter evil. Serious note, I reckon this guy is possessed. Perhaps the shirk he has committed in his Buddhist temple has led to his... Someone needs to read Ruqya on him and he will run a mile. No difference in Tan saying he hates Muslims, Muhammad Tawheed saying he hates Christians. He hates Christmas. Difference is Muslims rightly so attack Tan, but say nothing to Muhammad Tawheed. Okay, Tan needs to calm down, lay off the caffeine, coffee, speak at medium pace. Tan keeps proving his point, and the blind remain blind. Exactly. Well done, Tan. There you go. Tan is pure and utter evil. Oh, this is double. Okay, and then the last one is, I hope Tan gets caught on road. Why are you brothers even talking? He is mentally sick and fool. Have no knowledge of anything. We should avoid this type of people. He's taking the piss. My name's Tan. Say Tan. Okay, there you go. See that?
Shaitan even.
Shaitan. Now, it doesn't really matter whether Tan is the nicest bloke on the block, okay? It doesn't matter. If somebody asks a question, if somebody provokes a Muslim, it shouldn't matter at all. This is the point. So I don't like that people are taking it like personally and saying, well, he's not allowed to ask these kind of questions. By the way, I'm taking as a logo photo today. I think I love this idea of a girl with a stick taking the hijab, a white hijab, and chucking it in the air and showing this is what we need to do. White flag, this is what we need to do with the hijab. And that is it. And I love this revolution, or this, well, it's not a revolution. The demonstrations that are going on in Iran at the moment, where girls are sticking up for their rights and saying, listen, we've had enough of this. And this is what I'm doing. Okay, one quick thing before we start talking about what I wanted to talk about, that is what happened to Tan, is something that is quite weird. He was at the park talking to people, and these two guys, Tawheed and I don't even know what the other guy is, they came and they assaulted him. Now, assaulting somebody means that you are touching that person in a way that he does not want you to touch him, all right? That's called assault. And they pinch his cheek, which is then called battering. So there are very clear legal transgressions being committed here. And then what was quite funny is that a policeman came up and he went to Tan and told Tan, listen, you're causing, well, some aggression here. So how long are you going to be here? And he says, no, I'm going to a mosque later to tell you. He says, okay, you got 15 minutes. And then Tan had to leave after 10 minutes. Which
yeah, that's really strange. I know that guy. That's Officer Barnes. He's been there for years. If I see him again, I'm going to, well, if I ever go down there again at some point, I'm going to speak to him about that and go, wait, what is this that you are chasing the man out here? Because he went and stood in front of them because they're praying in a public place, which is, as far as I know now, Steve from Speaker's Corner was saying that there's a ordinance against praying in a park.
There's a bylaw, yeah.
by law. Yeah. So he went and stood over there and did whatever he did. He didn't touch anybody. And now you're chucking him out of the park here. You haven't got legal authority. I'll do it in a nice way. I won't confront him like that. He's been around there for years. But obviously I don't think it's right that he gives him a time limit or anything like that. Shame Tam didn't take him on in that particular case because, yeah.
I think it was a little bit different. I think it was
actually having legal recourse to do that, because like part of his role is to keep the peace. So if he's thinking, okay, if Anne continues to be here, he might be in danger, like something could kick off. Like, isn't it part of his role, just as a copper? To,
but his role is to protect free speech, and particularly in Speaker's Corner. And if somebody else is threatening Tan, then that's the person who needs to get arrested or removed from the scene. Because Tan is supposedly provoking people. Obviously, we know, well, some of us know anyway, that they are choosing to be provoked. They need to take responsibility for their choice of being provoked. But regardless, he wasn't threatening anybody. And so, in actual fact, it should be the other way around. You know, Barnes should have got a couple of his buddies there and say, anybody that provokes or touches this man, you'll be arrested on the spot and you will not be allowed back here. Done.
Yeah, but I think he took a practical approach and said, listen, because he didn't order him. He just went to him and said, listen, how long are you going to be? How long? Because there is, aggression levels are rising, and removing you is the most obvious thing, even though you don't have to, you are in the right. But then how long can you, or how soon can you be out of here? And he said, no, 15 minutes because I need to leave anyway. So I think it was a mutual agreement.
Right.
So it's not,
I think,
that he ordered him.
Like, are you talking about the guy in civil clothes or the guy?
No.
Policeman.
He was wearing a police uniform.
Have you seen the video, Abu?
Yeah, but first there is a guy in civil clothes and a hood.
I think he was a Muslim.
Ah, he's a Muslim. Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, let me quickly show you, because I made a 20-second excerpt from this. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
The camera is on COE. COE, Chinese over everything. That's a new conspiracy. That's why they have the best production value. That's why they have the best production. They are funded by Chinese Communist Party. COE is funded by Chinese Communist Party. They have the best production value, best quality, best editing. Why? They're funded by Chinese Communist Party. That's why COE. Why does C stand for? Chinese over everything. Chinese over everything.
You don't do that.
This is a public space. Why do you pray in the public space? You're breaking Islamic law. You don't pray in the public.
All right, you know what? There are some people bowing down now. Go do it again. Come do it again. Come let's do it.
I'm not gonna follow you.
Come do it again.
I'm not gonna follow you. I'm drinking my tea. Enjoying my tea.
Stay away from us.
Why do you pull me? Why do you pull me?
You come. If you want to talk,
I come when I want, not when you ask.
I come
when I want, not when you ask.
You understand?
I come when I want, not when you ask.
You want to come when you want? All right, we're waiting for you.
I'm not gonna come.
We're waiting for you.
I'm not gonna come. I'm not gonna come. See you. I'm not gonna come. I'm not gonna come.
All right, forget everyone else. I'm waiting for you.
He's gay. He admitted he's gay. There's a video 6 months ago. He admitted he's gay.
This guy.
There's a video. You say you're gay, right?
Britain first.
You're gay. You say me on camera. I watched the video. You're gay.
He's a little man.
Say he's gay, and then you all allow gay, but you want to systematically.
Is he gay as well? Is everyone gay? Are we all gay now? Are we all gay?
So you shouldn't be portraying that sort of image in front of the camera.
No, but that's not
Listen, the camera's watching, Allah's watching as well. We don't care. No. We shouldn't be doing it.
Okay. I thought that I had included here another sequence, which obviously I haven't, because this happened before. And I thought I had this, but then this is the wrong sequence that I used, because I added, what's his name, Tawheed or somebody who did this before at another place where he also pinched his cheek. So anyway, so what Tan was doing, he was telling them, listen, how come that you are coming here to the park and you are praying here? This is not a mosque. This is Speaker's Corner and not a praying corner. And people didn't like that. And then he said, well, I'm not going to go and join you, but you're gay anyway, so I'm not going to join you. And they don't like that. They don't like that. I mean, he was so I don't know.
Did you
He
look
was
at
into this gay thing because he said, well, Muslims, when they are young, they're not allowed to have sex. They're not allowed to, to play around with the girls. So they play around with the guys, which is true. Okay, there's a lot of gay sex going on with the kids when you're 18 or something, because you're not allowed to, practice with the girls. So that's it.
I thought you were going to say, since they can't play with the girls, they play with the guys.
Yeah, the guys with the that's cute.
If you play that video again at some point, if people watch it back, just look at the face of Tawi. It's like pure anger and hatred on the face there. And you could see, I'm surmising there just from the body language and everything. If he wasn't on camera, if this was somewhere else, violence would have broken out. He had to use all of his ability not to strike out there. And of course, they still touched him anyway.
Yes.
Him and Hamid, they're the two thugs there, and they walk around like they own the place. And between them, they've got marginally a couple of brain cells, and they're under this illusion that they can tell all the Muslims who they should speak to or not, as if they are imams or leaders or something. And then, of course, when he comes and quote unquote provokes them like this, their mentality and their psychology is so low that it's just the first thing is emotion and violence.
It's kind of interesting that you compare them to imams. I just think of them as like Tony Soprano wannabes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then it's true, because TDS is saying that then again there's somebody followed him to the bus stop, and then they had a little bit more of an argument there. So yeah. Okay, so this was the news of the week. So, and then the funny thing is, this video disappeared, by the way. It was taken down for hate speech, because Tan was telling people that they were gay, and this is considered to be hate speech, so it was taken down. Actually,
Content Over Everything got 2 strikes. His brother told me they got 2 strikes on the channel. So there was something else he got striked. He's opened up another channel just in case. So that's something to be aware of. And all he's doing is filming it, of course, and putting it on YouTube. But now YouTube is so sensitive that anybody that says anything about certain people who might have hurt feelings, well, that's not allowed.
No, they're all snowflakes now. Yeah.
It's actually really amazing to me, because I've seen quite a bit of Content Over Everything stuff, and it just seems like so unbiased. Like whatever his personal opinions are, like occasionally he has like a bit of a cheeky title, but he really seems to have decided, okay, I'm just going to show how things are. I'm going to show both sides of the story. It seems like an incredibly honest channel. Like, okay, this is what actually took place, rather than all that editing you get on others.
Wow. Okay, then that was it. Any further comments on this? Can we go back, or shall we start the topic on haram? Any other comments? Nothing in the chat that I see.
Actually, just going back to because Shabir was mentioned twice in the comments, and the interesting thing, like, did you see that that Shabir having a debate on evolution with Aaron Ra?
No, that was Subur.
Oh, Subur. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm thinking a different thing. Yeah, I just remember it was very quickly after Aaron Ra handed his ass to him that he sort of pounced on Rob. And it's like I always kind of thought that was him sort of trying to get some legitimacy back.
I see Hassan is there. Sorry, but I was just reckon Hassan is there, but I don't know if Hassan, did you have that video? Can you send it to me via Skype or something? I can't, because now I know how to do this. Okay. Nothing else, then let's talk about haram a little bit. Now, if we look at haram, there's different things about it. First of all, you have the word, and then you have the concept. So the word itself is quite interesting, because as is usual in Arabic, can mean quite a few things. Where, for example, if you use it as an adjective, it is different to when you use it as a verb, because it comes from that something is prohibited, but because the mosque or Mecca is the forbidden city, it becomes the holy city, it becomes the sacred city. So if you use it as an adjective or something, it suddenly becomes sacred, and if it's a verb, then it is prohibited. So, and I forgot to do this. I can't even remember how many times the word. Let me quickly do that. How many times the word itself actually appears in the Quran? Because it's not so many times. This is quite funny because I think it's only 4 or 5 times that the word actually appears in the Quran. And we had this one discussion already one time. We know it's funny, 18 times. But now, and this is the funny thing, most of the time it appears as Mashar al-Haram. This is the sacred mosque in
Masjid
Mecca,
al-Haram.
the Masjid al-Haram. And this is quite funny that this haram is the sacred, because it is the forbidden place. So in this case, it means sacred, and in the normal way when you use it, it is used as forbidden. But the usage of the word as forbidden in the Quran is actually very, very low. If I count here, this is all masjid.
There are a few examples. حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير. Well, like and the self-dead meat and the blood and the meat of the pig has been forbidden for you.
Okay, and that harama, and that is different.
Hurrima.
Hurima is 15 times, and that's it.
Yeah, but can I say this one thing about the reason why? Because this is like, do you remember when we talked about what we think is the real Mecca? The funny thing about this Masjid al-Haram, it mentions Masjid al-Haram as if it is like something that everyone knows. So, and it also mentions in the Sirah and Hadith and so on that Mecca before Islam was a place which was haram, meaning that if you went into this area, you were not allowed to do certain things. You were not allowed to have tribal warfare. You were not to, I think, you were not allowed to kill, like to hunt animals within, and a few things you couldn't do. So that is actually one of the things that is one of the thing that points to the argument that Petra was Mecca, is that we know that there were such rules in Petra, or I think that we know. I'm not 100% sure. But if I remember this correctly, that was one of the things that point to Petra. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so this is then, okay, but what is interesting is that the two meanings, that it can be sacred and it can be forbidden. It's things are forbidden, like Abu just said.
But this sacred thing, where did you?
Because it's forbidden. This is the whole point. This is the evolution of a word which goes from the forbidden city, the forbidden mosque, the forbidden area, then becomes the sacred area. Because it is forbidden for non-Muslims, and therefore for the Muslims it becomes sacred. This is the thing, that depending on how you use this word, it has these two different meanings. And that is what makes this word so interesting. And if you look in the Quran at the things that are actually forbidden, there are very, very few things, because a lot of people believe that in Islam, music is forbidden. And that's not true, because music is never mentioned in the Quran. It's only in the Sunnah that people say that, you know, the drums and other musical instruments are forbidden. And this is based on a sentence, some obscure sentence in the Quran, which is about idle talk. So you are supposed to avoid idle talk, and then this is being equivocated with something else, and then over as an evolutionary sort of transition, you suddenly get that music is forbidden, but it's not in the Quran at all.
No, but they're using other words, like like the thing with the music thing. I don't remember the hadith, but I think it's just that the Prophet says you're not allowed to do this.
Yes.
So
That's correct. And this is the funny thing, that because there was a bit of a tiff between what's his face, Ali Dawa, and another guy, and Dawa Man. And they were criticizing this other guy who suddenly changed his mind and said, well, actually, some of the music should be allowed, especially if it's Sufi. And therefore, I'm changing my mind, and therefore, I'm now following a different scholar, and therefore, everything is different. And now suddenly, Ali and Dawaman had to backpedal and said, whoa, 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 we're no longer working with him because we believe that music is forbidden, and therefore, we cannot work with him anymore because he now thinks that some music is allowed, which we don't. So here you have the Salafi, no, let me not call it Salafi. You have a strict interpretation which says all music is forbidden, even though the Quran doesn't say it. But because the scholars say it's forbidden, we must assume that it is forbidden. And this is actually what our God wanted to tell us, but he somehow forgot to do this in the Quran. So he corrected his mistake later by telling Muhammad that it is forbidden.
Even that is not quite true. Even in like Salafi Islam, there is like men can sing nasheed, like you hear them. There's a lot of good in jihad.
Yeah, cappella.
Yeah,
that's not music.
Exactly, a cappella. And I think, if I remember this correctly, that women are allowed to do some kind of drumming.
I just remember that women, because they used to have the bells on the ankles, are not allowed to stomp their feet, for example, because that's also not allowed for women.
I think there was some kind of easy way of drumming that was permitted, but not with. I don't remember exactly what it was.
The other thing that is quite funny is alcohol, because a lot of people think alcohol is prohibited. It is not. In the Quran, it says, avoid what the devil makes. And this is then whatever is intoxicating and this gambling game. And that's it. And it just says, just please don't do it. And in some cases, it says, no, actually, it's quite okay, and it has some benefits, and it's okay. But please don't lead the prayer when you're drunk, And then why don't you avoid it? And that's it. There is nothing more in the Quran about alcohol, it doesn't mention alcohol. It just mentions khamr, which is, again, requires interpretation because it is something that covers your brain. Because khamr comes from khimera, from covering, and the whole background is just the covering aspect. So
I think
in the Quran, what covers your brain becomes avoid alcohol, and then in the Sunnah, it gets transferred from avoid alcohol to absolutely don't ever bloody well touch any alcohol.
I want to make a small objection. I think there are pre-Islamic poetry that mention khamr with the meaning of wine.
Well, this pre-Islamic poetry we've also done with what's his name, with Saracen. Where do you get pre-Islamic poetry? Because we're seeing more and more of this. What is called pre-Islamic poetry actually is not pre-Islamic poetry, because the Arabic did not exist as such. So what you're taking then is words from the Syriac.
Sorry, isn't that one of the things that some people have tried to do, sort of distance early Islam from teachings today? Like I've seen a number of Muslims that I've actually speak to. Some of them, like, not so much the more liberal ones, but like the more hardliners. Not that I'm being insulted, like they're very nice people, but it seems like I would talk about things of them with things that have been attributed to the Sufi poets, and
exactly.
Sufi poetry is filled with exolidating the virtues of wine, and some of the people I've spoken to will actually try to say that this is a misinterpretation of it. It's actually pre-Islamic, and then others will be like, well, it's not literal, it's metaphorical, and it's quite interesting to me, particularly because it's not even this sect. So it's very interesting.
Well, the thing is that I don't know how to get to this. Today, for example, in Egypt, if you say khamr, it is wine. That's exactly what Abu was saying. But this is something that has evolved over time. So I have never come across any source that says that khamr in Syriac already was being used as wine. This I have not come across anywhere.
Yeah, maybe sometime in the future. I don't have time to research that, but it's an interesting question.
Sorry, just to clarify, what you're saying is, are you saying that you don't think it originally meant wine and that it's just come to mean this in later centuries?
Correct.
I'm skeptical. I think
everybody is entitled to be skeptical. Absolutely. This is what I have found when I looked at this, that the evolution of the word started off as anything that covers your brain, anything if you are sidetracked, if you are half sleeping, anything like that is always called that something is covering your brain. And then it got used as a metaphorical explanation for alcohol because they really used to love their booze. I mean, if you look at Muawiyah, for example, he was really living it up. And then it just became synonymous with wine over time.
So if you put it in that,
just if somebody wants to join, sorry,
if you actually put it into that context that you're talking about, that it could mean tiredness or irritability or daydreaming, like how do you think that would actually change the reading of the text?
How would that change reading the text? Well, it's used in the beginning as anything that distracts you from a let's say rational or thinking or whatever type of activity with your brain, to something where you don't, and then where you can't, and then where, for example, it's then thought of as alcohol doing this and then becomes wine. This is what I'm just saying. This is what I found. Okay, I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying this is the absolute truth. I'm just saying that this is what the conclusion I came to after reading all the different reports, after reading all the different accounts on what this is about the alcohol thing with the different languages. This is where I came to this conclusion, and I came, then it makes sense. This is how I, pieced everything together.
Well, it's kind of interesting if you think of it as if you think of it as sort of the context of sin or idle thoughts, or the devil makes work of idle hands. And if you think of it's kind of interesting if you think of it as basically having too much time on your hands, which sort of maybe makes you lose a bit of piety, lose focus on living an Islamic life. It opens a lot of possibilities if what you said actually is true. It's actually quite fascinating to think about.
By the way, if somebody wants to join, I'm following Rob's suggestion. If you want to go to the Facebook link here, just send me a message and I'll send you the link to the Hangout. Because remember, we've been bombed by pornography here, and this is not what we want to talk about here. Okay. Any other ideas? Any other comments on what the word haram is concerned, alcohol or whatever?
I have a point I want to make here about the khamr thing.
Go ahead, sure.
In Surat Muhammad, if I press that one, I don't know if you can see it now. مثل الجنة التي وعدت للمتقين. So in the description of paradise, I don't know, but like methal and the point is مثل الجنة, how do you say it in English? The description of paradise which the righteous are promised. I don't think that's a good translation, but anyway, that's not the important part. فيها أنهار, therein there is rivers, min ma, of water, غير آسن, like not polluted
Clean.
water, وأنهار من لبن, and rivers of milk. لم يتغير طعمه, the taste do not change. وأنهار من خمر, and rivers of khamar. That means that khamar must be something liquid. لذة للشاربين, delicious to the drinkers. Anyway, so I think this points in the direction that khamar means wine.
Interesting. Yes. Yes. That's where it probably comes from. Yeah. Okay. I've never seen that word there as being khamr. That's where it helps if you are Arabic speaking. Excellent. Yes.
I remember now. I was happy that surah, so it popped up in my mind.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yes. Any other contributions along those lines? Because the other thing, what was of course the discussion that we had on haram or harama, was of course the discussion that I had with Saracen, where I showed that the word is forbidden, is used as forbidden when it comes to, for example, treat your parents well, which then of course is a contradiction when you take up the other verses in the Quran which say you should be nice to your parents, and not it's forbidden to be nice to your parents.
You know, this is something I was actually told once. I've got no idea if it's true, but is it true that monkey is haram, but it's forbidden to eat?
What is
Monkeys.
what is forbidden?
Monkeys are forbidden to eat.
Good
Monkeys?
question. I don't remember that they are forbidden.
Because I was having a conversation with someone, and he just told me that that pork and monkey is haram, and he said it's because they're related to Jews.
I actually don't remember whether or
I've
not
never come across that
monkeys.
before. I have no idea how mainstream that is. I'm fairly certain he will. I'm fairly certain he will, being honest. I did kind of think for a second, is it pulling my
No,
leg?
it's probably honest, but it's a good question. I actually don't remember what's the hukm of monkeys. That's a very
That's
good.
just what I was told. You know, eating pork and monkeys because they're related to Jews.
Well,
Good
the
question.
female monkey got stoned, but I don't know if there's anything about eating.
I don't remember that actually.
You know, one of the things that I do find quite interesting is, you know, the idea of ruba, of interest, and just how exactly Islamic finance works when it comes to this. You know, like if you want to take out the idea that that first of all you need to stay in business, but you also do want to provide services that we would usually think of as something like loans. I mean, like, how would it actually work in practice? Like, imagine that you want to buy a car and you haven't got enough money. So you go to an Islamic bank and you're like, okay, I want that car. And so it's like, okay, we'll buy the car for you and we'll sell it back to you, but we'll sell it back at a higher price than what we bought it for. So
the thing is that kind.
So the thing is that if you actually miss a payment, right, this could theoretically, because it's not actually yours, so it could be considered theft. So rather than being something of a civil matter, like it could actually become a criminal matter because you are legally you are having something that is not yours, but you have not paid for. So how does that work?
This is very interesting because, like, back in those days, money was quite real. Like, they had some kind of gold standard, although there had been attempts during wartime to kind of create some kind of semi-fiat currency. Not exactly, but they kind of long story. But it's first when the Medicis and dudes like that really put like interests and the ability to invest for the future in big practice that you had this enormous economical increase. So,
Are there any actual cases that you're familiar with, either historic or modern, where something like what I've described has actually happened? That someone agrees to purchase something for someone else and then just pay them back, and then sell it to them for a higher price than they bought it, and then because the person hasn't paid them back, or whatever,
remember
reason,
that in Saudi,
skimp out when this actually has been something that has been viewed as theft of property. Like, is there anything that
I
you
remember that in not exactly like that, but I remember that in Saudi Arabia there was like, like when you buy a car or something, you can pay an amount every month. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's called.
Like I said, you miss a payment, and then instead of it actually legally being yours,
Yeah. So they are using that to go around, like, say that you, instead of taking a loan, say that a car cost 100,000. Oh, that's too much. Pound is too much. But it says 10,000 pounds. If you buy it immediately. So instead of like taking a loan, they do it like this. You can pay every month, or like for 10 months or something, £1,000. But every time we add a little fee, so it becomes like 10,010 every month or something like that. You see what I'm saying? So they are going around.
That is the ridiculous thing about it. It's got all these rules, but it's like it needs to do the exact same thing. It just calls it something else. Like I was having a discussion with someone who I hadn't spoken to him in years, which I'm a bit sad about because I really liked him. But I was sort of having a discussion with him about rent versus interest, right? We were talking about a bank account and how he was wanting to find a Sharia compliant bank. And I just said to him flat out, because I was honestly puzzled by this. You do realize that it's the exact same thing, right? And he's like, no, it's not. One is interest, one is rent. And I'm like, yeah, mate, it's the exact same thing. Just call it something else. What is the point of interest? It's a little fee that the bank takes so that they can keep in business. What is rent? It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. They've just called it rent. And he really seemed to struggle.
Yeah,
Really
that's the point. Like you're going around it. However, there are actually banks that have like this model. I know one bank in like a very small bank in this area of the world that they have kind of a small fee that you pay. So it's almost like a collective. It's like a collective. It's almost like you join a union, like a workers' union or something. But you join this bank, so you're part of this bank. So you're not really paying any rent when you take a loan. You're just paying a fee, and it's kind of interesting. I think that actually, if enough people would do that, it probably would be lucrative for the loaner, especially. But that's a little bit of a problem because you have to have enough people that do that voluntarily, and it's hard to go around those bottlenecks. That is one of the things that people might think that rent is, or it's called interest, is very bad. But if you look at it from an historical perspective, I think the invention or the mass use of interest has probably benefited the world a lot. Although today, when you have these interest-based economies where you have fiat money and like banks and buy money from the central bank or buy it or like loan it from the central bank, it may have gone too far. But previously, when it was...
Well, there are definitely a number of ethical issues mentioned when talking about interest today. But, most of it, businesses are tend to be greedy. It's that simple.
Yeah. But what I mean is, like, I think the mass use of interest might have been a really good thing for the world, like back in the Renaissance, for example. And maybe at least onto the point, like in early 20th century, at least. But then now it's starting to get a bit like too much with all the like in Scandinavia there are at least 2 central banks I think that has a minus interest, for example, which is kind of weird. So, but that's another thing. I have a question about this sacred? We're talking about sacred things. Is there anyone that speaks Mandarin in the chat? Because I'm thinking about the forbidden city in China. Does that word in Chinese have a similar, like, is it similar to haram?
Too. Yeah. And sorry, I don't speak Mandarin.
No, but is Tan here? Didn't he live in China?
What is
I don't think. I think he was.
Hello, you disappeared.
Who disappeared?
You disappeared. You're muting yourself.
Oh no! I just switched off my microphone when I was done.
Okay.
Did anyone ever came across the belief that owning pets other than cats is haram? Because, you know, Muhammad was a whole father of kittens thing.
It's haram. It's a little bit difficult. Like when it comes to dogs, dogs are unclean. So if they lick their saliva on your clothes, you can pray with the clothes, for example.
Yeah.
I know there are certain ways around it. Like the whole idea with dogs is that they're not supposed to be pets. They're more supposed to be
yeah. But however, if you're doing hunting,
then they are, yeah.
Yeah,
it's like I said, like if you treat it like a tool rather than a pet. But has anyone ever actually come across that before? Apart from cats, you're not supposed to have them.
What?
Sorry, it's just a random little memory that I can't remember where I came across it. I just remember chatting to someone who insisted to me that apart from dogs that you can use for hunting and shit, that it was haram to own pets other than cats. I have no idea if it's true.
I don't remember if that's true, but cats are not. Nah, I'm not sure.
Cats can do anything.
Yeah, like cats are. There are hadiths about the Prophet liking cats, and I remember that I used to.
Maybe it was secretly a were cat.
Yeah, I remember that when I was back in my days, that in the Fajr prayer there was a cat that used to come and sit in my knee after the Fajr prayer. So I let it sit there. And,
you know, one thing I do think would be quite interesting to talk about is like the problems that come with Islam and adoption. You know, like there's a lot of Muslims I've spoken to that believe that it's forbidden in Islam to adopt children, and I've never really understood why that is. I mean, I can understand some problems when it comes to the idea of opposite sex and unrelated, which, you know, unless you're breastfeeding, I suppose would always be there. But I've never found anything where I could actually say flat out, okay, yeah, adoption is haram.
You mean adopting a child? Well, I don't know, but it's just it's very important who is your biological father and mother and so on.
But no, that's not even true, is it?
No, but according to Islam.
True, I mean, if you actually want to go by the rules of the Sharia, the rules of the Qur'an, the Hadiths, then, like, I mean, if I had a daughter, there is a biological daughter, I could theoretically be her non-matram, because, you know, like if I had a daughter and then the mum marries another man, then she would have to wear a hijab around me because I would be considered a non-relative, even though she's my biological daughter.
Okay, that's a bit technical, but
it's true, though, isn't it?
Wait a minute. What are you saying? Like, if you have a daughter, a biological daughter, that.
Then if a mum marries another man, then the idea is that it's supposed to be considered that he is father, and so you could make the argument that she would be lawful for me to have as a wife.
No.
You don't think so? Like if you just sort of put it the right way.
That's not okay. Because she's still your biological daughter. It is a bit like, say that even if you have a kafir, say that you're a non-Muslim and you convert to Islam after you have had children.
What I'm specifically talking about is like if I have a daughter outside of marriage, like outside of wedlock.
Yes, outside of wedlock. Okay.
Yeah,
if you make zina.
So I have a girlfriend or something. She gets pregnant, gives birth to a girl. We're not married, and then she gets married to like a Muslim or whatever. He's the father. I have, according to some of the things that I've read with books of Sharia, she would be eligible to be my wife. Like my biological daughter.
I doubt it. I don't remember that anyone has. I don't remember if anyone asked that question to a sheikh sometime, but I doubt it.
Well, is there anyone?
She's still your biological daughter. It's like, say that you would have. There were Sahaba who had daughters like before Islam, biological daughters. And they were mushrikeen, and their marriage doesn't really count, I think. And then they become Muslims, so I don't think that their daughters were allowed to them suddenly.
One of the things that I've always found...
What is going on the screen here? It's not porn, I hope.
This is the explanation of Islam, where they are showing how somebody has
Stelle am Schenkel
is
und so
being
weiter.
suckled as a grown-up.
Zum Fetischismus gehört auch zum Beispiel die sexuelle Erregung durch das Saugen an der Brust, ohne jeden weitergehenden geschlechtlichen Wunsch.
Yeah, I know. I think there are hadiths or athar or something that Aisha, in order for like...
So the next question,
Oh God, oh man.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry, this is the guy explaining what kind of sexual
some
positions
of them,
are
still
haram
had
in
this
Islam.
kind of, thing about the intimacy positions. They still had this thing about the intimacy positions where they would not practice that position. Now, the Sahaba who came from Mecca, they never had this belief. So for them, it was all open, from the front, from the back, from whatever, And that was a practice that they did. When a companion who came from Mecca ended up marrying a woman from Medina, and when he wanted to have intimacy with his wife in that position, she felt uncomfortable and didn't like that because of this, general kind of practice that they had of engaging in that position. So she became discontented and worried. This seems wrong, this position, or whatever have you. This issue was brought to the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam for further clarity. Is this position wrong? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down an ayah. And we all know this ayah, many people know this ayah, but this was the reason I mentioned this whole story to you, so you can understand the reason why this ayah came down, because it's not good to just know the answer like a parrot. You should know the context and the story that took place. And the ayah is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Nisa'ukum harthul lakum, that your women are like your tilth, right? They're like your tilth. Fa'tu harthakum anna shi'tum. Approach your tilth from however you will. From however you will. So this ayah came down in the context of a discussion about intimacy positions. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's shy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way he, one of Allah's names is the shy one, right? And he's very subtle in his language, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he didn't come out there and say straight, this is the position, whatever. No, but he said your women are like your tilth. Approach your tilth from whichever way you want. Okay. And Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he brings this in his book Adab al-Zafaf. That's where I'm getting it from, in case anyone thinks I'm bringing this from my own self. We're bringing this from our ulama and our mashayikh, okay? And their understanding that they've derived from these evidences. So what we understand from this is that one is permitted to approach his wife in any intimate position. There is no position that one can say is haram. The positions are open, right? What is clearly haram is entering from the back passage.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of years ago, I actually wrote a song about that one, man.
So yeah, but this is the way that he explains it. Okay, everything is open. You're allowed to do anything that you want, but not
Except
this.
anal. Oh, it's good to know that blowjobs are halal.
Yeah. So this I don't know. This is so.
But I
so
think
weird.
Sheikh
It's like
Albani is
children.
called the
You know what I do
blowjob.
agree with Dawaman about? When he said that it's no good just knowing the answer and repeating it by like a parrot. You have to know the context. You have to know the reason. I agree with him.
However, this with the blowjob thing, if I remember this correctly, Sheikh Albani said that he called it adabul kilab, like the manners of the dogs. So I don't think he said that it was haram, but it's not. He didn't think that it was good adab. It was not good manners. I don't know if manners is the right translation.
You know, like some of the things when it comes to context, some of them I think is quite easy to understand. Like the idea of not eating carrion. That's a very, very, very good idea. But when you got some like marrying your slave, marrying a slave that you own, I just don't really.
Yeah, you can free her and marry her, but that happens. That happens in Roman Empire also. Like,
but I just want to finish this thing quickly because this guy actually says that the other position that is unbecoming is when the woman is on top, because then the man gets effeminate and then he acts like a girl. And yeah, really, he does it. And he says this is why it's unbecoming that the woman is on top, because the man is the active guy and he should be on top. And there you have it. That's what it is. Okay. Can we do something quickly? Can we make a short list between Quran and Sunnah? What is actually prohibited?
Well, I know that
really
as far as
forbidden.
the
In other
Sunnah
words,
goes,
with the word haram, and not just discouraged or avoid or something. What is it that is really haram in Islam, going first from the Quran and then the Sunnah?
well, like what about things that
Because
Muhammad
we
says?
found out already that alcohol is not haram. It's just, you're just supposed to avoid it. So the only thing that I really know that is haram, or the two things, are that it's anything with pork, with blood, and with committing shirk.
Self-dead meat.
Was the fornication. So those are the only things that I know that are really haram. Yeah, exactly. Zina is haram, but raping slaves is halal. Exactly. But the raping of slaves is then further detailed in the Sunnah. I've actually got a discussion going at the moment with somebody who thinks, no, there is nothing about slaves. There's nothing about rape or anything. Muhammad never said anything about raping slaves. But it's a lot of times that Muslims are not even aware what it says in the Quran and in the Sunnah. Okay. Is there anything else that is haram in Quran?
I remember all the things, but
I mean, what you mean? Things that it's actually saying not to do, and then like that's it, or like would you still count it if we're contradicting verses?
No. Anything which is associated with the word haram. What does it actually say in the Quran? Because to my knowledge, the word haram does not appear all that often, and there's not so many things that are actually prohibited in the Quran.
Yeah, but I mean, if it actually says in the Quran that something is discouraged, or it actually says flat out, do not do this, do not.
Flat out haram.
If it doesn't actually say haram.
Not discouraged, but haram.
Yeah, but then you come to this thing in English language. You can say this is forbidden, and it's mentioned 88 times. But then you can say to something else like, you're not allowed under any circumstances to do this, and if you do this, then you go to hellfire. Then it's kind of clear. Okay, this
Or
is
if it
haram.
says something like Allah cursed such and such.
Yeah, like so. But there are also other things, like in many things in hadith where things becomes haram that is not mentioned in the Quran, like shaving your beard and things like that.
Okay, but what is haram in the Quran itself?
Well, the basic word is forbidden.
Wait,
But as you
tattoos,
mentioned,
What is actually forbidden?
Tattoos is from the Quran, isn't it? Or is it hadith? I think it's Quran.
what is
Tattoos.
tattoos?
Yeah, it's Quran to get tattoos, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's in
the
Quran.
Quran.
I'm pretty sure that's in the Quran.
In the Quran.
Pardon?
Tattoos in the Quran.
Does it say so in the Quran? Because at the moment, I would like to actually get to the bottom of this, and I cannot remember all the things. This is why I'm sort of looking for help here. What actually is associated with haram? In other words, do not bloody well do it at all. It's forbidden.
I guess the only thing I can pop up in my mind is the hurrima alaykum al maytada wa dama wa lahma al khinzir. Blah 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 blah. Is there any more? I mean, I could make a kind of a search for hurrima and haram.
Is it because Rafa is saying it's haram to marry Muhammad's widows? Because it says in the Quran, do not marry the wives of Muhammad. But is this haram?
Well, what about tampering with Allah's creation? You know, it's in chapter 4, I believe. It's a quotation of the Satan. What Satan will mislead humans to do. So if a person does these things, they're being misled by Satan. And something like, I will mislead them and entice vain desires in them. I will command them to slit the ears of cattle. I will command them to tamper with God's creation. Whoever chooses Satan as a patron instead of God is utterly ruined.
There's also وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ بِالْحَقِّ, and do not kill the self or the person that Allah has made haram for, unless it is bilhaq, unless it is something like how do you pronounce? Haq means truth, but like unless it is rightful to do so. Like
if you have if you have like a translation,
What do you mean? You're not allowed to kill yourself unless it's rightful.
No. Like another. Do not like. The meaning is do not kill another person unless it is like in self-defense or it is.
Oh, that's 534. Yeah.
1733.
Oh, there's again. Yeah. Okay.
And then it's in blah 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 blah. ولا يحرمون عمل. There's also this is a long ayah. 9:37 also.
Hassan, yes, you are correct that the Quran says it to avoid, and even if it's not saying that it should be haram or like totally forbidden, you should still avoid it. Absolutely. But I was trying to get a list together that, you know, that shows what is actually forbidden. What does it really say that it is really 100% forbidden in the Quran? Because I was surprised when I did this the first time how few things actually are forbidden, and then it's only in the Sunnah later on that you get the explanation or the continuation of all the things that are then prohibited, but not in the Quran. That's why I thought
show you.
Find this in the Quran.
I can just show like all the times where I searched for the word harama or hurrima or like HRM.
It's 25.
So here you can see harama ولا تقتلوا النفس يحرمون and make it unlawful 1 year to adjust the number which Allah has made unlawful, and making lawful what Allah made unlawful. Okay. So then another one, وَمَا لَكُمْ أَلَّا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَقَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ. And and I don't know if I have to read everything, but there are
No, what is forbidden here?
And what for you that not you eat of what has been mentioned, God's name, Allah's name on it, like you say, Bismillah, when indeed He has explained in detail for you what He has forbidden to you, except what you are compelled to it. This is just like
No, but this is bullshit. This is nothing. This doesn't tell you what is forbidden.
And confirm lima bayna was. He's just talking about. It's almost.
Exactly. This is the funny thing that I found.
This is like so weird because he's talking about like. This is supposed to be a book of all time, and it probably made sense for the people who lived there in that time what he was talking about, but he's talking about it as if like anyone knows it. So I can find some other one that's talking about.
Pull-ups is just giving us a link here to forbidden things. Yeah, okay. This is the problem. You see, this is exactly what I'm saying. They should not display their beauty and ornaments, but is it forbidden? And this is exactly what I'm trying to point out. And this is the problem that Abu has at the moment. It mentions it a lot, but it doesn't really say anything. So the things that are prohibited, really forbidden, are only these 3 or 4 things in the entire Quran.
Here is the one that I was hafid. إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به. So there it mentions dead animal, self-dead meat, blood, and the flesh of.
So this is the pork and the carry-on.
Yes. Now we have 2 that I have found. That is, you're not allowed to kill a person unless it's rightful, and self-dead meat and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I can find some anymore that is clear. There's a يقتلون نفسا one more time. قل من حرم زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده. Who is making forbidden what Allah has made beautiful, blah 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 blah. والطيبات من الرزق, and the good thing of what He has provided. Yeah, so this is very general. إنما حرم عليكم الميت. This is one more time. إنما حرم عليكم the same thing one more time about the dead self-dead meat. فقد حرم الله. And this is يا بني إسرائيل اعبدوا الله بربي به. فقد حرم. Shirk is forbidden. This is clear. You're not allowed
That's
to
the one
make
thing
shirk.
I said, yeah.
Man يشرك به. So that's clear. You're not allowed to make shirk. قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله, and do not make haram what Allah has made haram. But that is not. That is just an order to fight them. في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض These are أربعة حرم. This is forbidden, but here is translated sacred, like that is not haram. Maybe you can talk about something else while I'm searching here.
No, because this is interesting.
Okay.
This is, I think, fascinating to show people, because you hear this a lot. Yeah, but this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. And then when you go and you look at it, it's not.
Well,
This is a funny thing, because there are very few things that are actually forbidden.
قل إنما حرم قل إنما حرم ربي الفواحش. Say, oh, truly my Lord has made forbidden al-fawahish. Fawahish is like you do something, say that you most often is related to sexual things, like you do a very shameful sexual act. ما ظهر منها وما بطن. What is
that fornication?
Clear. Yeah, like he's talking about, for example, when he talks about Sodom and Gomorrah, he's talking about that they are doing the fahisha, al-fahisha. So, but they are talking about homosexual sex. So that is like the fahisha. But here is talking about.
But what is it? Okay, what is actually forbidden?
Well, it's not quite clear. It's like very general, al-fawahish. So what is considered to be a fawahish? If you're like, maybe as this guy in the share was talking about the women that was from in the Ansar in Medina, who probably came from Jewish background, and thought that sex from behind, not anal sex, but normal sex from behind, could create like disformed children or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's the Jewish thing.
So maybe they are considering sex from behind fahisha.
Okay, but this does not sell you this and this is prohibited. It's just
this is very unclear. What is fawahish? It's very general, like.
Okay.
Just a quick note, Stops. Do you want to unhide TJ? He can't participate at the moment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I forget that I need to do that. Thank you.
Does TJ?
Welcome, TJ.
Haram
Okay, there's like three more to go.
قل ذكرين حرم أم الأنثيين. This is a weird thing. This surah in the Quran is where he's making this weird kind of poetry. قل ذكرين حرم أم الأنثيين. Is it this, like, say, is the two males forbidden or the two females?
Okay, but it doesn't tell you this and this is forbidden.
Yeah, no. ومن الإبل اثنين ومن البقر اثنين ذاك حرم أم الأنثيين. This is just the same thing. This is this weird poetry stuff that doesn't say anything. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا أنتم حرم here, it means when you're making Hajj. So that was also I think that's the first one. I haven't shown it, but the hurum here means when you're in ihram, like when you're wearing this white dress before you have shaved your head. قل هلم. This is maybe. Say, bring forward your witnesses, those who testify that Allah prohibited this, then if they testify, then do not testify with them and do not follow their desires of those who denied our signs. Sorry.
What did you read?
I don't know. we would take that was the last one, I think. قل, like, say, O Muhammad, bring forward your witnesses who will testify that Allah has prohibited this, and if they testify, do not testify with them. They do not follow their desires, those who deny our verses.
Okay, I also don't understand the English. I'm sorry.
Where's
my favorite 151?
Is it 151? but maybe that's haram. But
6.51.
now I search for the word haram.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay.
No. I search for the word.
listed-
This is the it's called the ism. The what's it called in English? So what's it called in English? Wait a
I
minute.
don't know what you're trying to say.
No, this grammatical term. Wait a minute. It's called noun. This is a
Oh, a
noun.
noun. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
ولا تقتلوا لما and do not say for that which assert your tongues the lie. This is halal and this is forbidden. Anyway, you're not allowed to put words in Allah's mouth, so to speak. What is in here? Now it's starting to.
I think we should leave it here, otherwise it gets far too long and gets
far too long.
It gets messy. I think the point is that there are actually very few things which are really forbidden in the Quran. So it's not very specific in setting down the rules on what is totally forbidden. There are a lot of avoid, and it's discouraged, and what Allah does not look kindly on, and things like that. But the forbidden thing, there's actually very, very few things.
Yeah.
And this is the point that I was trying to make, because this was a surprise for me, because I never realized how few things actually were prohibited. And this is why I love this list, that you actually go through them and say, listen, this is the way that it is.
What were you supposed to say, Rob?
No, I was just
no. That's it. Thank you very much. Are there any? Okay, I think we all know what is forbidden according to the Sunnah, because there it's a lot more. But there, I mean, this is just fairy tales, and we don't know how, because there. And the funny thing is, any Muslim can say, yes, I follow the sheikh or something, the scholar who says this is what it means. And then 2 months later, he changes his mind and says, no, now I follow somebody else, and now it means something completely different. So there's a lot of this interpretation going on where you can't really say what it is. So whatever it is that you want to believe, you can find one of the sheikhs who will support you. And then if you want it to mean something else, then you will find some scholar who's saying the opposite.
You know, just earlier in the chat, we were going on about hijabi porn. And there was it just sort of made me think of that hadith where it says that Muhammad cursed the effeminate man, masculine woman, and it's like apparently he didn't have a problem with lipstick lesbians. It's like it's all about Muhammad's penis. You know, it's like girly boys, I'm uncomfortable, or butch women, but like pretty ones.
Okay, Pull-Ups has given me the hadith. I don't know if this is true. Okay, this is class Sahih by Al-Albani. I don't know. 4 verses of the Book of Allah, and the 4th was, when I had been drinking wine with some of the Ansar, a man from among them hit my nose with the jawbone of a camel. I went to the Prophet, and the Mighty and Sublime revealed the prohibition of wine. So there you go. This is on Reddit. But I don't think we should take this all that seriously. Okay, is there anything else that we want on this topic here? Because I think we've covered just about anything and everything on haram. What we've found is that it has different meanings, that there are different things which are prohibited in the Quran, a lot more in the hadiths, that a lot of things which people think that are actually prohibited are not prohibited. And for example, that being gay is as such is not being prohibited in the Quran. You have to go into the Sunnah to find out something in there. Then you find that it's the act of being gay. I don't know what that is. I think if a kiss between men is just as gay as anything else. But then people try and protect themselves and say, no, it's only if somebody here in the street has sex with another guy, then they should be thrown off a building. But that's not going to happen. So we are
Isn't
not
that
actually against gays.
I thought it was a hadith that they should be thrown off a cliff. And Qur'an.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, because it's not in the Quran. And that's why you have so many different versions. And that's why some people are saying this guy, Paul, for example, in Speaker's Corner, he's okay because he says he was gay, but he doesn't practice being gay anymore. So it's okay being a little bit gay.
You got to wonder, like, what his idea of heaven is. Like, does he think that he's going to go to heaven and Allah's going to make him straight? Or is he just going to have, like, you know, gorgeous young men? Or
maybe all it does is go, and all of a sudden he's a woman.
Just unhide TJ again there, Stops.
Is he?
Yeah, he jumped out. He opted out, and when he comes back in, I mean, you can disable that feature on the cameraman thing if you know you're not giving the link out publicly. Then people won't have to do that. So, a quick question, because I was away then. What would be is Paul? Would he be considered haram or not, or is there dispute on that? Or
I think as long as it's
the way I understand it, he's okay.
Practicing is all right.
Okay, so as long as you don't practice it, even if you have that tendency, you're okay. You can still be a Muslim.
I think one of the things to mention with Islam is unlike other religions, like say Christianity, which like Christianity very much has sin as a feeling, and you know, actual feelings of lust and envy and jealousy can be damning, whereas Islam focuses much more on the act.
Right.
Okay, the other thing is, it sort of closes it. In the beginning, Tan said that a lot of Muslims are gay. And then when he asked, I can't remember, Muhammad or whatever his Tawheed or whatever his name is, he asked him, are you gay? And how did you get your first sexual experience? And he evaded and did not give any straight answer. And then Tan jumped on this and said, okay, I understand you were gay. I wonder how many Muslim men actually do have their first experiences as sexual experiences as in same-sex experiences.
I was talking to this lad from Saudi a number of years ago, and he was just mentioning to me that a lot of the things that will be considered like a bit gay over here in Saudi Arabia is quite normal. Like it's very normal for like teenage boys and young men sort of like lay around in bed together, like with their like topless, maybe their heads on each other's chests. So like it's not necessarily something that I think a lot of Western straight men will be comfortable with, but according to him, it's just quite normal over there.
In the beginning, Tan created the heaven and the earth.
But I think this whole issue with homosexuality or anything with same-sex, I think this is a big challenge for religious people because religions don't really like them. It doesn't matter which one. I don't know. Does Sikhs? Is there anything about Sikhs? Is Raj still here? Or TJ? TJ, do you know if there's anything about homosexuality in Sikhism?
Nothing in the scripture. And nothing in the lives of the gurus that actually condemned it. But the highest authority in Sikhism passed a recommendation on it. They actually condemned it. But there's no scriptural.
Okay. So it's
kind
also
of the same with Christianity in a way. Like, I mean, there's always Christians that go on about, you know, Jesus wants this, Jesus wants that. I mean, I've read the Bible, and not once does Jesus say anything about homosexuality. I mean, you can find it in the Old Testament, but Jesus never says anything about it.
I think it's mentioned in Deuteronomy, though, right?
That's like Old Testament, like I said. A man shall not lie with man as with woman, it is abomination. But no, I mean, like, but so many Christians, as you just said, with Sikhi, the scriptures themselves don't say anything, but like the followers, modern day followers, the quote unquote authorities, sort of give their verdict. But it's the same with Christianity as well. You know, there's nothing In the Old Testament, you've got it, but Jesus never mentioned it in the Bible.
And that's why I'm saying it's a challenge now for all those people, because they don't really know how to handle it, because according to scripture it should be condemned. Now they're seeing this, but now this has become something of an acceptance thing. How do they handle this? And they can't. So I think it's quite a challenge for them at the moment.
You've got like in France, you've got what was it, the Pink Mosque, and I think you had like a gay imam in the States who was said he was willing to do same-sex weddings.
Okay. Oh wow, it's so weird. I don't know why this is such an issue. I don't know why but I must admit, I mean, for me, I had to change as well. All right, because for me, it was not a common thing to have same-sex marriages, because I used to think, no, I mean, marriage is something, is the foundation of a family, and a family is always two different sexes or two different genders and then children. That for me is a family. And there I thought, okay, how can you have same-sex marriages? But I did a 180 on that, and I said, well, who the fuck cares? I mean, if people want to get married, well, why not?
Well, it's also, I think it's also about what our ideas about marriage are. I mean, like our ideas of marriage.
That's what I said.
It went through a rapid evolution in a very short amount of time. You know, it was about solidifying bonds. It was about childbirth or things like that. But like marriage has become so romanticized in the last 150, 200 years that it's less about that now and more about this idea of love and commitment. So if you have people growing up in a culture that views marriage in that way, it's absolutely no wonder that same-sex couples would want to do it. Plus, you got like legal rights, things like that. I mean, just imagine that you're gay and you're being with like the same man for like 50 years, and you can't even go into a hospital if you're sick and be recognised as kin.
I would like to say,
I think it's time that it changes, and this is why I think it's terrible that, for example, in Germany, the AfD goes and says, well, we are criticizing Islam, and a lot of people understand that. Not politicians, a lot of people understand it, but then they go and they say, our only point is we're bringing back the family, and they are, propagating family values that you would have last heard like 80 years ago. In Germany,
in family values, and you think that they'd be encouraging gay married people to actually adopt, or sort of like making it easier to get surrogates.
No, they're saying no, man, woman, and that's it.
Can I say something
about Eve and Adam and Steve?
The thing is, though, like all these religious people, if they actually insist on that, and there are certain examples, like the two I just sort of randomly threw out there, but can be an argument for same-sex marriage if it is about the family. But like, if it really is about the family, then why do you have no objection about people who marry but have no intention of having children? Or like, why not advocate for the state to actually dissolve a marriage where either the man or the woman can't have kids? You know, like they might want to, but they can't have them. Or like, if it's about religion, then because a lot of it has a religious basing, why wouldn't you advocate to take away the marriage rights of atheists? You know?
Can I say something now?
Pick apart these arguments.
Can I say something now? Can I say something now? Can I say? Okay, if you look at
no,
yeah, I do it anyway.
You actually stopped. Oh, that was cute.
That
okay, go for it.
Like marriages, like in the beginning when Tan created the world, marriages was some kind of like, it was kind of contract mixed with the religious things and so on. The thing is with back in those days, the kind of states that we have now didn't really exist. And then like in the Middle Ages, the church and the state merged into one, and or maybe even earlier. But the thing is with gay marriage is that it is, despite even in countries that are very secular, it is still, marriages is still part of the state. So if you marry, like you're legally married in a bondage that is part with the secular state, and this I think is a problem. Like this issue with gay marriage would not be a problem at all if the state simply didn't have this special role for marriages. Yes, the state can enforce legal contracts, but people should be allowed to make any legal contracts they want. There shouldn't be any special thing for marriages, I think.
I think it's also about culture. Like, if you think of Thailand, for example, I mean, we've all heard of Thai ladyboys. I mean, the thing about Thailand, a lot of people don't realize is that it actually is a very conservative country, and yet, like, I think it was definitely the whole ladyboy, like how easy it is for them to get legal recognition, to get legal status. And it is a very interesting thing if you
the same thing
consider the difference in the culture, but also conservativeness of it. We're just like how just certain little differences of views have such rapid impacts.
Isn't it in Iran that, like, if you're gay in Iran and you become a ladyboy or whatever, that's actually okay? Because then you
I think there's also I think it's
no. Then you get to hang.
I don't think it's in Iran. I think it's in Iraq. But I don't know if it's still the law now. But apparently, if you were a same-sex couple, then the state would actually pay, like, for you to get a sex change. Or I think it'd be like half of it or something.
I don't remember. But anyway, the point is, I think we wouldn't have this problem. Like, I think people should be allowed to sign any contracts between themselves. But the thing is, we have this special marriage contract that is except from all other countries, because you can't like say, okay, I want to marry this person, but I don't want this contract to be on this and this and this conditions. And that is a problem. I think the state should get away from marriage as such, and instead only focusing on enforcing contracts that both adult people have signed, and then you can have whatever you want in that contract. So for example, now you have it's like automatically, like in many countries, that if you have a divorce, like person A and person B, or person B gets person A's half of person A's money or something like that, and it creates a lot of problem.
I think the interesting thing about you said the state enforcing contracts. What like if you had a certain contract or a certain interpretation of a contract that actually would have the state having to enforce criminality? You know, like what if you have someone makes a wedding vow to, you know, always be yours, body and soul, which is a very romantic thing to say. So what if you got one spouse that rapes their partner? You know, we do actually recognize marital rape. We have laws about marital rape, but we say, yeah, a husband can, under the definition of the law, rape his wife.
No. You can't make a contract about something that is illegal.
Well, if part of your vows, I mean, like the vows themselves are part.
Okay. So if you say that you put in the contract, so even if he rapes me, technically that would be okay because we have signed a contract on that. But then, per definition, it would not be rape anymore.
Well, that's the thing, because it might have a contract where you could interpret it a certain way if they swear to each other body and soul. But then, even though that might be part of the contract, you've still got laws on the books recognizing that a married person.
But that's what you should go into. Of course, I understand that's not very romantic. On the other hand, it's not very romantic with the situation you have now either, that you have to pull up a kind of an app that says like, do you really want me to take off my shirt right now? It's like, oh yeah, you can take off your shirt. Like, okay, can I touch you on the knee? Like, yeah. Are you sure you're not gonna regret this?
Please sign here.
Yeah, sign it here, and then you have to like make revision. I think there's even a movie where they're.
I'm flashing back to a South Park episode, and it was like this frat house of PC people.
Okay, we're
and
going.
Like this one guy, PC principal, was literally the next day going around, and it's like, okay, can you pass me your consent form? You didn't get consent for this. You got written permission to perform oral sex on this woman. And I was just cracking up when I was doing that. Although I did actually hear that there was a proposition in the government of Sweden that they were actually thinking that you might actually have to get like some sort of written consent.
No, they passed a law not that like a month ago or something like that.
What, that you actually have to get written consent to have sex?
Yeah, I don't remember like exactly how it's, but it's the implications of that can be kind of weird. Like, as I said, there was a movie. I don't know if anyone can find that scene. There's a movie.
Can we stop this now?
Okay.
Because there's somebody in the chat who said we should go into a topic, but I do not see what the topic actually is, or whether the topic is that we should go into the sentences that were being said just to please Muhammad or something. So we'll have to look at that. And another, I don't know, have we had this topic? Does everybody agree that Muhammad actually existed? Should we just treat it as though he was, and therefore everything that is attributed to him is by him?
I think it would depend on what you mean by existed.
Well, if we take the hadiths, for example, were they going, they'd say that they originate from one single person. Is this really one single person?
Well, I mean, the way that I look at Muhammad, I'm very open to the idea that he actually did exist as a historical figure, but he's one of those historical figures that are semi-mythic. If you actually look at a number of the hadiths, I mean, just not even mentioning for the moment how many of them came about centuries after, but like if you look at the way that Muhammad is portrayed in these hadiths, now he's portrayed in these hadiths, it seems like a completely different character. So one of the things I think that you might actually have had an actual historical Muhammad who is the basis for all these myths, and then within like over 200 years, there were other people who did this and that, and this sort of got codified, and all these actions were attributed to the original historic figure, which is one of the reasons it has become semi-mythic.
Okay, but now if you take the sentences in the Quran, which are attributed to events relating to Muhammad, how does that fit in?
Well, I mean, does that mean that, well, I mean, the revelations themselves, you know, do describe certain events, but they're more like commands, right?
Well, they don't really describe the events. You have to go and look at the explanation to be able to understand what this is supposed to be relating to. Because, for example, if you take chapter 66, where women are ungrateful and that that they should not be so bitchy all the time, and then this is supposed to relate to the incident where Muhammad had sex with Mary and his first wife was not happy about this. So that's, is that really the case? Does it make sense? Is it plausible?
I don't know, but like one of the things that makes me think might have been a historical Muhammad is like you have certain things in the Quran that don't really make sense about it. Like you know that verse in the Quran which says you know, like if you go around to Muhammad just for dinner, just eat and then leave. Don't just hang about. He doesn't like it, and he's a bit uncomfortable. He's a bit too shy to just say, "Hey, I'm going to bed" or whatever. Like, why would you just throw that in about a completely fictional character? I have.
No. I'm just saying, is that really relating to one single person? Does it make sense to say that the chapter 66 sentences are actually related to that one incident where Muhammad had sex with Maria.
Well, that'll be according to the commentaries. So, I mean, yes, according to Islamic
Do we all
sources.
accept it? Does everybody accept this?
Well, it's hard.
I'm kind of
It's hard
skeptical.
I mean, it's hard to say everybody does, but you know, Muslims certainly do.
This is what I'm wondering. Okay, but that's maybe a topic for another day then. If we should,
I think one of the just to pick up on what TJ was saying about commentary. One of the things I think when it comes to commentary is that, like, because I when I first read the Quran, I'd already read the Bible, right? So I read the Quran for the first time with a familiarity of biblical text, and the thing that really struck me is that if I didn't know the Bible, I would have no fucking clue what the Quran was talking about. I would not know. Like, so much of the Quran is reference in the Bible, you know, and did we not say when, and do you not remember, and was it not so? And it's like, Genesis, Exodus, and without the Bible, I like I said, I'd have no fucking clue what it was talking about. Like most Muslims, for instance, I've never actually spoken to a single Muslim who knows why you're supposed to be circumcised. I've never spoken to a single one who knows it, and yet when I read the Quran, I actually saw reference in the Quran where it's referenced in the Bible and it's talking about covenant. It's like, okay, so this the covenant of Abraham, which is like the whole basis for circumcision, and the actual commentaries on the Quran all contradict each other, and there's no consensus. And yet, it's if you actually do know what the Bible says, it is blindingly obvious that the writers of the Quran expect the reader to be familiar with Judeo-Christian law.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're basically, I mean, you know, in my view, they're basically offshoots of Judaism, essentially.
Basically,
So,
Judaism is a base.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, that's the foundation that, you know, each one of them builds on. So, you know, you can't understand Christianity without looking at Judaism.
I think one of the things that really kind of struck me about the Quran is how the characters were presented. Now, if you look at a lot of the prophets and people around the prophets in the Bible, they're very human. Whereas in the Quran, I've always felt it lacked a certain humanity. And also there's this idea in Islam that they have to be perfect. You know, it's like the Quran cannot guide these characters to be anything other than perfect. And some people would actually disagree with me on that, saying, oh, we're not perfect. And it's like, yeah, not perfect, but they're not perfect in the same way that Batman or Captain America isn't perfect. They may make a mistake, they may fuck up, but we all know that by the end of his tale, all tears will be dried, all wrongs will be righted, and they'll come out even shinier than ever. If you like, I mean, if you think, for example, of the story of Abraham and Isaac, right? In the Bible, Abraham goes up to his wife, Sarah, and he says to her, hey, I've been hearing voices in my head. I'm pretty sure they're from God, and they're telling me to kill our son. And Sarah's reaction to this is like, you are a fucking mental case. Stay the fuck away from us. And she actually guards his tent in the night to keep him safe from her schizophrenic husband. Whereas in the Quran, she has this exact same conversation. She says, well, yeah, you have a penis. Sounds legit. And then you got the character of David, you know, David in the Quran, when he goes to a certain point of his life, it stops at its most heroic point, and then it just cuts off from there. Whereas the Bible doesn't. The Bible actually has a much more detail, and it actually talks about the rest of his life and how he became a king and how he fell into lust and how power corrupts. And like that is the one thing that I really noticed about the Quran, that like these characters in the Bible, they act like I would expect human beings to act. Whereas in the Quran, they don't. Like, this is not how human beings act.
Okay, no comments on that. Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? Any other comments, any other topics, anything else? Because I don't want to extend it too much if there's nothing going on, because we had this one topic. I think we've
Well, how much time are you willing to stay on for?
5 minutes.
Oh, I actually did have something that came to mind, but probably need more than 5 minutes.
Well, if it's a topic, then we can do it next week.
Well, one of the things I was thinking of is I was kind of thinking about you know, when a while ago when DJ came on and he did that presentation on slavery, and obviously it's been going on in the news about all the slavery going on in Libya, and one of the things I was kind of thinking of was how Christian and Muslim empires actually went about conducting slavery and what these societies were like before the Abrahamic faiths. You know, I mean, you have Europe, and when Europe was pagan, before it was Christian, I mean, you had a very certain way of acting, which was basically similar to every other people throughout the world. You know, I mean, the Europeans didn't really act that different from Africans or Middle Easterns or Asians or Americans. You know, when you actually had Christianity, that was a huge cultural mind shift, and this was mimicked in the Islamic world. And one of the reasons I think that is, I think that in most non-Abrahamic faiths, you don't have this concept of the infidel, of the heathen, of the kafir. And it was only when Christianity and Islam actually became part of the culture that the culture shifted in such a rapid way. And one of the things I've been thinking, is it because all of a sudden you had these, instead of you have different people, different gods, and you know, different paths and shit like that, you had the concept that not only was different wrong, it was actually
Raven.
Yeah,
there is actually you can, like, one tips, read Robert Sapolsky's book Behave. He talks about or he talks a little bit about like how nomad religions, or from this like desert nomad, how they create a monotheistic god, and like how their kind of way of life shape their culture, and the importance of this very strong notion of this is the out group, this is the in group, this is the kuffar, this is the mu'minin.
Well, would anyone be interested in this topic, like for next week's show or something, like the impact on a society and on a people that have a concept of infidel?
That sounds like a big research topic, but maybe. I don't have time to research for next week, but it sounds like if you're gonna say something useful, you have to be very learned in many fields.
Yeah, it's something I've definitely been considering researching more into. But it was like I did a bit of research into it, and it really was fascinating. Like the huge transformation of the cultural mindset once you had Christianity and Islam, religions that, you know, like I said, that had this concept of infidel, that, like, you know, pagan Europe didn't have, Africa didn't have, India didn't have.
As I said, if you,
once this concept was introduced, how that affected the society.
I mean, I am at least encouraging. I'm at least encouraging. If you want to research something, like, that's super good. As I said, if you want to research that topic, and do a presentation, that's good.
To be honest,
it's a bit difficult because I think you have to read a lot of books and read from different fields.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could do a presentation, but it probably would not be next week.
No, exactly.
But, if anyone's interested and thinks it's worthwhile, I'd be happy to when I get the time.
Ask Rob also if it's okay for him.
I must admit, I have not understood the topic.
Like,
please don't explain it again.
Okay.
What I got is something about the concept of the infidel in different religions. Is that the topic?
No, like the impact of having this concept. But I would add this impact of monotheism, this way of thinking. As I said, if you do that research, I really recommend Robert Sapolsky's book Behave, where he talks about like different cultures and different
Robert Sapolsky, and the book title is
Behave. Robert Sapolsky.
Sapolsky. Can you spell that last name?
Sapolsky.
Okay, cheers. If I forget, I can just sort of come back to this episode and I would just put it to the part where you spell it out. I would just type it in as you're saying it. Thank you.
I'll put it into the chat.
Yes.
Here you go.
Just before we go, like TJ, because obviously, I mean, like in Hinduism, for instance, in like a lot of pagan religions, like, do you think that if Islam either didn't exist or did not have this concept of kafir, like, do you think that the Hindu massacres would have actually happened if you didn't have a powerful people with being raised to believe that different is evil, and that these people by extension are evil, not like us, and so, you know, subhuman?
I mean, I would say that the history of India would have been a lot different. If you read the classical accounts of India before the invasions, you'll see something, I think, quite extraordinary, in my view. I believe the Greeks were the first ones to actually write about India, and they mentioned that there were no slaves. And they do mention castes, but not as what we think about it today. It was mainly like, divisions of labor. So, but yeah, if Islam had never came into India, I mean, India would be a lot stronger.
Well, what about if Islam was like exactly the same as it is now, except you didn't have the concept of the infidel? Like, do you think that it would have played out the same way?
That's a tough question to answer, because
if that doesn't work, Islam, then it wouldn't be Islam. It's like, it would be
there's a dualism there.
Yeah, you could. Who should you make jihad against? Who? It doesn't work. Islam wouldn't be Islam. But Raven, that's if you do a research topic about that, then we can talk about the impact of the concept of.
It might be like a month from now, but I'm happy to do it. I think it's a very fascinating subject.
Yes. Okay. Should we do the hadith of the day?
Go for it.
I do it. In Sahih al-Bukhari, I think, narrated, what's his name? Adi bin Hatim or something like that. I asked the Prophet about the hunting dogs, and he replied, if you let loose with Allah's name your tame dog after a game and it hunts it, you may eat it. But if the dog eats of that game, then do not eat it, because the dog has hunted it for itself. I further said, sometimes I send my dog for hunting and find another dog with it. He said, do not eat the game, for you have mentioned Allah's name only on sending your dog and not the other dog.
Oh goodness, this is, I'm always stunned at all this ancient superstitious
Islam, the solution to all of life's problems.
What would we do without Islam?
The best one is still, I don't know, I need to find this one again. There's a hadith somewhere where it says that if you, for example, ejaculate inside an animal, you are not allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to sell it to anyone in the tribe, but you can sell it to the neighbors, to the village next door. That's the most amazing one. All right.
Okay.
That's it for tonight. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next Friday. And and it's a great pleasure to have everybody here. Thank you to the panel, to the knowledge and the input and everything is really great. And thank you for all the funny comments in the chat. That was brilliant. And next time, remember, if you want to get on the chat, then just send a message on Facebook to Rob, and then he will give you the link. Or we're going to, I actually like this idea with the camera, that you can go and initially, if somebody comes on, they will be invisible. So if somebody wants to play that thing, this funny joke, showing pornography when they log in or immediately when they come up, very effectively block this. So, okay, next Friday, same time, same channel, same place. Thank you very much, guys. Good night.
Peace.
Good night.